your pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Another great racing weekend is upon us, and we're very, very happy to be here talking some horse racing with you. Matt DeSantis and Gino Bacola. No Barry Spears this morning. Barry's out traveling, so we hope our good friend has safe travels and has a nice weekend with the family. But we have some big racing to discuss. And Matt, looking at the calendar, only 2 weeks away from the Breeders' Cup. I know you've been doing a lot of content leading into the Breeders' Cup. I alerted you the other day that I'm just going to have you on my show. I didn't really even ask you. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, you're coming on my show to help me out with a race or two. So that just to give you the heads up on that one. And for the harness racing fans, this weekend and next weekend are the Breeders' Crown weekends.
Oh, right.
Which is so they have some eliminations that actually start today. And some of the horses that win or finish well in their heats today and tomorrow get to come back and race next weekend for the big Breeders' Crown races. So if you're a harness racing fan, you have the Breeders' Crown these next 2 weekends, and then following that, the Breeders' Cup. And it's a lot of fun because the Kentucky Derby, the Kentucky Oaks are a blast. The Triple Crown races are awesome. There's a little difference with the Breeders' Cup being a multiple day event. Yeah. All of the biggest races, all of the biggest divisions, and it's fun leading into that, which is where we are right now. I mean, 2 weeks from today, I don't think we'll have a contest because I don't think we'll have a show on that morning because there's so much happening. It's so difficult, but we'll post some videos and we'll talk about the Stable Duel schedule leading up, and that's the culmination of our sport for a couple days.
Absolutely. No, it really is. And there's the international component as well. I mean, earlier this week, Charlie Appleby, of course, announcing the 6 horses that he's going to be bringing over from his stables.
You've been paying attention to that quite a bit too, right? You've been watching and monitoring for the last month or so.
So that's one of the things, that I've been doing on the Countdown to Keeneland show, which you can find on my YouTube, or find on my Twitter feed. I mean, the Euros are just so dominant at the turf races. And so it's just so important to kind of keep track of who's coming over, who's not. And I think the important thing is most of our North American horses, of course, have been running all year to point toward the Breeders' Cup. Whereas the European horses, it's a little take it or leave it. Like some of them have been pointing towards this. Others have been pointing towards Japan or other races, or they were pointing towards the Arc, which was a couple weeks ago. And that was their big race. And that was their big week. So now they're kind of on the downside of their training. So, it's such a fun day. I mean, because you just have wall to wall on Friday, the juveniles. That's so much fun to watch the 2-year-olds in the different formats. Going to see some really interesting dynamics with that juvenile turf sprint in particular, I think. And then Saturday, it's just wall to wall horse racing. It's the best horses that we've been talking about all year running against each other. I love that it's the horses from all around the country, all around the world, and horses that haven't matched up against each other before. Now we finally get to see these matchups that we've been hoping to see. So really thrilling stuff in a couple of weeks, but we also have some really good racing this weekend too, which is also exciting.
And you know what? I posted yesterday when I was looking at Keeneland and Santa Anita for the weekend. There's no Santa Anita Friday contest for Stable Duel. We'll talk about some Santa Anita for tomorrow. For Friday, it'll be Keeneland. It'll be Remington, I believe. And there's one more. And what's the
Gulfstream.
third? And Gulfstream for today. So if you're looking to play any Friday games, those are your options. But the prices that I had for today, and if you want to play some Santa Anita also, I went over the Santa Anita best bets on my podcast. I also have some picks posted on the website up at santanita.com. 12-1, 15-1, 15-1, 20-1, 8-1, 5-1, 15-1. Those were the prices of the horses I liked today between Keeneland and Santa Anita. So you know what? It doesn't take many of them to win, to perform well, for you to make some money and for you to feel really good about the day that you're having. So let's head on out to Keeneland. What type of games can we play today? Matt, what
Yeah,
styles do
so
they have?
at Keeneland, there's a $10 three entry limit, $800 pot. So nice little winning pot there if you're able to win in the $10 game. And then there's also a $40 game with a $2,000 pot with a limit of entries of 4 at Keeneland. So a couple ways to play. It's a little bit smaller dollar game and $10. Go a little bit leverage. If you feel really good about the card, go for the $40 game.
You are going to be looking in races 2, 5, and 7.
Yep.
I'll be looking at races 4, 5, and 7. So you start us out. We may have one or two where we could be overlapping today.
Yeah.
You start us out in race number 2, though, Maddie. Tell us who you're looking at in this maiden $20,000 claimer.
Yeah, well, it's a maiden claimer, so I'm going to be going to that race, and that's just tried and true. But I really like the number 2 here, Simpering Smile. This is a Steve Asmussen horse, and let's talk about a couple of things I think with this race. First of all, let's talk about that race that this horse ran in last time out, which was its debut, which is a $36,000 maiden special weight at the aforementioned Remington Park. The horse that won, Jackpot Baby, came back to win a stakes race next time out. The 5th place horse in this race actually came back to win on the turf next time out. And the 9th place horse came back to finish 2nd next time out. So this race came back pretty strong. And now you have this horse that Asmussen's dropping down in class. Asmussen is 26% winning when dropping down from maiden special weight to maiden claimer. He's 22% on maiden second starts. And here's the other thing that I really, is notable. He and Gaffaleone don't team up very often, but when they do, it is incredibly profitable at Keeneland. Over the last year, they've teamed up 10 times. They've won 4 of those. So that's 40%. And here's the kicker. A blind $2 bet on all of those races would have returned you $6.68.
Yeah.
So a blind $2 bet would have more than tripled your money every time Gaffaleone and Asmussen meet up. So they hit on big numbers. They're not hitting on 9-5, 8-5 favorites. They're hitting on long shots.
Matt, can I interest you in, I give you $2 and you give me back $6.68. I mean, if we can, every time we do, let's make that trade every time. I'm down for that. Could I interest you?
Yeah. Could I interest you in that? And, and so, I just think there's a lot to like here. And the other part is, this is the workout tab was something I also noted. I really like the way this horse worked. I think this horse just needed more conditioning, to be honest. I mean, it feels like this horse just kind of, really faded late, but comes right back after that race on September 9th. And the first work after that is a 1:03, 5 furlong work, which was really solid. And Asmussen's given this horse 3 straight 5 furlong works before his traditional kind of eased up 4 furlong work right before the race. So I feel like this horse has just gotten better conditioning between the first and second race. That race has come back pretty live. The connections make a lot of sense. So at 10-1, this is only going to cost you $1,000 in Stable Duel. And I think in a maiden claimer is absolutely worth a shot. I think you're going to see a big jump from Simpering Smile in the second race.
Simpering Smile 10-1 on the morning line. I know I usually do my handicapping a lot of times before a lot of times even before the odds come out, the morning lines and before the analysis in the racing forum. But Randy Golding down here has his horse as the top pick too. It's something.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I'll just sort of notice it afterwards, but said, the pick in a wide open scramble. So they have this horse picked right on top too. Only $1,000 in your Stable Duel lineup at that 10-1 morning line price. Simpering Smile early on the card for Maddie on Friday. So Matt, we move to race number 4, a race where I have my first play of the day today. And this is a race that is a maiden special weight race. It's one of those strong maiden special weight races, a 2-year-old race that just screams Keeneland. Like this is like everything that is Keeneland. I'm going to talk about the number 5 in here, Devil's Red.
Yeah.
So Devil's Red debuted at Churchill for Doug O'Neill and got some action in the debut, was only 5-2. One of the reasons why he got some action when you dive into his pedigree. So his dam is Elusive Diva. Elusive Diva was very, very nice. She earned $484,000. She was graded stake, multiple graded stakes winner, and she was in some really, really nice races. The siblings for Devil's Red. Roy H. He's a half sibling to your 2-time Breeders' Cup Sprint winner. This horse has a nice little pedigree here. Roy H. earned $3.1 million, but it's not only Roy H. and the Dam, it's also 5 other siblings.
Right.
Buckleberry Gray is a
Right.
5-time winner. Snowfly was a multiple winner. You have Great Eczema is a multiple winner. Hollywood Queen is a winner. Vinca is a winner.
Mhm.
So all of these horses have run well. There's a lot of winning in this family. And it's hard not to look right past Roy H. when the first thing you click on for the siblings is your 2-time Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, like punching you in the face at 3.1 million, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, oh, okay, Roy H. right after looking at Elusive Diva. So now all of a sudden, the small little things like, okay, the horse got action in the debut. Now we know the horse has a nice pedigree and some nice direct siblings. The blinkers will come off, and honestly, drew the rail in that debut. He was a little bit slowish. He was mid-pack, and he moved up nicely, kind of into contention.
Mhm.
But what ended up happening is he ran into a little bit of traffic, and the 2 horses in front of him kind of backed up, and he just couldn't come on again. And that happens for so many horses. They're not push button. You can't start and stop and start and stop again. It just doesn't work that way. The reason why it's impressive when we see horses do that is because most horses can't do that and don't do that.
Exactly.
So whenever we see a horse that overcomes a lot of trouble and we go, oh my gosh, it's because that's impressive. I think there's something here with this guy. He's 12-1 on the morning line. He's only going to cost you $750 in your stable dual lineup.
Yep.
Devil's Red. Giving him a shot in here, throw him in. I'll throw him in some early pick 4s, pick 5s. I think he may get bet a little bit, but if he's 6-1,
Yeah.
above, that fits in a wide open race. Devil's Red for Doug O'Neill.
Like it.
We're both in the 5th race, though, right next door.
We are.
So you tell us who you're looking at in race number 5.
Yeah, this is a pretty big allowance race, $120,000 allowance, non-winners of 2, and over the last year with some conditions there. And about a mile and a 16th on the turf, I went to the first-time North American starter, Samburu. The number 7 horse is where I went. So
I'm not on the 7. I'm a couple down next to you, but Samburu is absolutely an exotics player in any type of exotics that you like. Talk to us about Samburu.
Yeah, Samburu is 6-1 on the morning line. Is going to cost you $5,000, which is that typical average stable dual horse. And this horse, Michael Domabel, who plays on stable dual a lot, also likes this horse. He and I were going back and forth before I logged on here, and he thinks this horse will probably go off closer to 3-1. And I would agree with that. So you're getting a little bit of value there from a standpoint of what this horse will probably get bet down to. But the first thing that really stuck out to me was previously trained by John and Thaddy Gosden.
Yeah.
It's like, hello.
Right.
Like, I mean, if you don't follow European racing, those names might not mean anything, but those are like royalty in European racing. And so John and Thaddy Gosden have an amazing barn. I mean, we know Charlie Appleby and Aidan O'Brien probably a little bit better here in the United States, but Gosden is right there, if not ahead of some of them in those instances. So the fact that this horse is coming out of an incredibly good barn, this horse started off his career with 3 consecutive wins. You can notice who does he attract as a jockey? The legendary Frankie Dettori's riding this horse. So that's something you like to see as well. But like I said, 3 straight wins, 2 novice stakes wins and a handicap stakes win, then steps up to a group 3 race. Not quite good enough, but that was a good effort there nonetheless. It doesn't really run that well last time out in Newmarket in July 9th. Comes over here, goes to the Mott barn. Mott is winning 29% with first-time North American starters, 22% off the claim, essentially. Here's the other thing. This horse is getting Lasix for the first time, so that's a 26% winning rate in the Mott barn for horses getting Lasix the first time. And the other thing is, while this horse has only run 7 furlongs, this horse is bred to go long. This horse is breeding with Kingsman up top in particular. This is a sire that's producing 26% turf route winners. This horse is meant to run long. So I think, stretching this horse out will not be an issue at all. Some Brewer at 6-1 in this race felt like, like I said, this you're not going to get this value by post time. So from a stable duel standpoint,
Perfect
you
horse
can
to
lock
use.
in a horse that's going to end up going off at a much lower price than this, and save yourself some money when putting together your stable. So that's why I went to a Samburu here. I think he's going to put out a big effort first time here in North America.
6-1 on Samburu will only cost you 3,000 in your stable dual lineup.
5,000.
Or 5,000, excuse me. Yeah, 6-1 to 5,000. As we move to Vivar, I'm at 15.
Oh, yeah.
So
Nice.
I'm only going to
Nice.
be 500. And you know what? If you look at this horse, and again, I repeat this quite a bit because everything doesn't have to be complex, right?
Mhm.
You can have a simple mindset and then dive deep. That's fine. But if I think in gambling, in sports, like in everything, like simple is best. And you can really like have variations on simple. And I look at Vivar, and I'm not reinventing the wheel or anything here with Vivar. I'm just looking at all of his individual races. His first 2 races in his career, they're on the turf. He runs very well. He's
Mhm.
4th in his first start. He's beaten only a length and 3/4. He comes back in his second start. He wins at Kentucky. Then in his third start, what ends up happening is it may have sort of been a negative that race at Keeneland on October the 29th gets taken off the turf, because what ended up happening, he wins that race, and it sort of signals to their connections that this horse may be okay on the dirt. And
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
2-year-old, that time period, they start thinking, hey, maybe we go to the Derby, or let's see if we can get some Derby points for this horse. Let's try to, so we run in the Jockey Club, which might be a little bit too tough. And remember how tough that Jockey Club was?
Oh, yeah.
With Smile Happy, Classic Causeway, White Barrio. It was the anti-Breeders' Cup Juvenile, right?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
all
that
these
was the
horses-
race. That was the race you were looking for horses to come out of, not the juvenile. Absolutely.
Yeah, all the horses came back and ran really well this year. Call Me Midnight came back to win the stakes at Fairgrounds. White Barrio, Classic Causeway, we've seen them. Smile Happy, all performed well. So now, I mean, it's pretty simple to look at Vivar. First 2 races on the grass, good. Then has this stretch of races on the main track. One of them he wins. Then the next 3, he's in stakes races. Graded stakes race, the Smarty Jones, and then the Southwest.
Yeah.
Trying to get into the Derby, some Kentucky Derby points. Well, it doesn't work. Then we send him to the bench from January to September. He shows back up in September on the turf in a tough race at Kentucky, making his first start in over 8 months. And he runs exactly like a horse who needed the race. I mean, he just literally runs exactly like that. But what I really liked is that even with that poor performance where he finished 7th of 11 and was just a little bit tired late, it was actually a career best speed figure for him.
Yeah.
So he showed that like improvement that you would want to see based on the speed figures from the last time we saw him on the turf, which was over a year ago. In that 1 year, his speed figures improved a whole heck of a lot. Now, can he and his fitness level just kind of catch up with that in his second start back? Johnny V takes the call for Brad Cox. I mean, there's a lot of little things I like for a horse who's 15-1, who will only cost me $500 in a stable dual lineup. I think Vivar, this is the race for him to take his big step forward and be right back into contention with the rest of this group. I mean, that speed figure last time out is right there with what it would take with, a lot of the top contenders in here.
Yeah, no, this I like this pick a lot, and I think you're right. Second off the bench, getting back on the preferred surface, and Cox is I think more adept than most barns. That it feels like his, because there's a horse later on, I think tomorrow, that I'm going to talk about with the Cox barn going from one surface to the other. I feel like his horses always perform well, whether it's turf to dirt or dirt to turf. Like he always knows how to get these horses ready for the new surface or going back to a familiar surface. So I like this a lot. And we should mention, this is a salty ass field. I mean, this is a really good.
No, this is like a stakes race.
Really
this is a legitimate group.
Even if you keep scrolling down, the 10 horse Alex June, this is a horse that's had some nice races at Colonial, and doesn't run on the turf often, but when he does, runs really well. And then the 11 horse Yamamoto, that's a horse that's run really well down at Gulfstream Park that I remember, or the 12 horse, I should say. I always remember that horse because that horse got me a win on Pegasus day, and when I did very, very well in my stable duel contest. And
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
you always
Soft
remember
spot.
those types of horses. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. But that's it. I mean, these are horses again that are 15, 12 to 1 that are very good horses in their own right. And so, this is a very salty field. So I think the key here is I would not spend up on a favorite.
No.
Like I said,
That's right.
$5,000 is the most I would spend in this race.
Even when
Yeah.
we're not on the same horse in the same race, if you're ever watching these streams and we attack a particular race, it's because we think it's a vulnerable favorite, or it's a race where, hey, this race on this lineup on this day is probably the spot where you can't really afford to spend up, right? Like that's sort of what it comes down to, a little bit of strategy and how you're building your lineup, how you're putting your lineup together. Think about it right now. I know some of you who are watching are probably big fantasy football players. On the weekends, you're probably putting together your DraftKings, your FanDuel lineups. And when you're building it with the salary cap, you're doing the same thing. You're maneuvering. You're having to massage stuff a little bit here. Oh, nope, I got to change. And I'm not talking about Deshaun Watson massage stuff, different kind of massage therapy here. Because we just found another thing out last week that there was another incident apparently, and I don't know how this guy is going to play football, but that's another that's another conversation. That's another podcast that we could go on hours and hours. Fun fifth race there on Friday, a little bit later on today at Keeneland, as we both dive into race number 7 a little bit later on the card, Matt. So why don't you start us off in the 7th race, maiden special weight. Again, this to me, these are the races that just I look at and I'm like, this is Keeneland. You have these 6.5 furlong races, these big fields, these maiden special weights. Talk to us about race number 7.
Yeah, so I like 2 horses in this race. I'll give out the first horse that I'll talk about here in a second, and we'll see if we agree on either of the horses that I like here. But I'll give out the one Communication Memo first. And
actually, I am going to give out the horse that was in the same race with Communication Memo.
Oh, okay. So then the other one is actually different. So, okay.
Release McCracken. So they both came out of this September 17th race at Churchill. Talk to us about Communication Memo.
Yeah, Communication Memo. I feel like this horse is getting some bad luck. Breaking from the inside rail, the first 2 races of this horse's career, I just feel like is not necessarily fair. So it's gotten the kind of worst part of the draw. I do think actually having broken from an inside is good. Like this horse at least is familiar with what that's going to be like now, and has run like that once before and didn't necessarily have a bad trip and just got beat by a freak. I mean, Loggins is one of the top 2-year-olds. Now we just found out he's not going to be going to the Breeders' Cup. That Brad Cox just announced that he's going to be skipping the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I think it's because he thinks this horse has a very big future.
Yeah, and just want to save him for just kind of put him on the shelf for next year, not get.
Yeah, this is a Derby horse for next year. I mean, this is a horse that will be on the Derby Trail, and I mean by that,
he was second beating a neck in the Breeders' Futurity, the Grade 1 last time out.
Yeah,
and the
that
race
was
has
a huge
already
effort.
Produced 2 next out winners.
Exactly, the 7th and 8th place horses, have produced next out winners, and so. This was a very live race. I think this is a horse that, has good pedigree. Bolt Doro, it has been an effective first crop sire. I think that you look at a horse like this for Asmussen, there's a reason that 22% second out starts. This horse has been turning in some very nice workouts since that September 17th race, particularly like that October 3rd 5 furlong work, and. I also, this is one where I kind of like Ricardo Santana Jr. being on board here because I think this horse needs to go. And when Ricardo knows he needs to go and just doesn't overcomplicate things, he usually is very, very effective as a jockey. So I think this horse breaking from the inside, there's not a ton of other early speed in this race. And if I was Asmussen and Santana Jr., my advice would just be go. Just get out because you have 2 first-time starters to the outside of you in the second and third horse. Who knows how they're going to break? You don't want to be involved in that. Just get out and go. And you don't necessarily have to sit in the lead, but you need to be up there in that first flight, and then you can make your move later. So that's why I ultimately ended up on the number 1 horse. But I'll let you talk about the horse coming out of that same race, actually.
Yeah, Release McCracken on September the 17th was 4th in the race that Communication Memo was 3rd. And honestly, he was fast, he got over, and then he had to deal with outside pressure. I don't think he's going to have to deal with very much pressure in here. As you referenced, there is not a whole lot of proven speed. Now, a couple of these first-time starters could be fast, but I love the outside draw for him because of that. His debut race at Indiana Grand was not bad at all, and they actually thought enough of that to say, okay, let's go over to Churchill Downs and run for some bigger money. And I like the fact that he has a 6.5 furlong race under his belt already. He's drawn to the outside in a field where there's not a whole lot of speed, and he's proven speed. I think it'll give Saez an opportunity to kind of break, look over. If someone else goes, he'll have no problem sitting right to the outside, but he may just naturally be the quickest and be able to kind of get over and get that same sort of trip. I like Release McCracken. He's only he's 12-1 on the morning line, so that's only going to cost you $750 in your stable dual lineup. A very, very fair price for Release McCracken, the number 11 in race number 7. Getting ready to do one of those Pirates of the Caribbean rewatches recently. We were just talking about that the other day. McCracken is a nice price. There are some very logical prices that I think you can use.
I was going to mention the other horse I was going to mention here is the 7
please.
actual. Yeah, the 7 horse, Seas of Normandy, nice. Which is the Larry Jones horse. Yeah. At 8-1 for only $3,000 on Stable Duel. This horse also feels like a really solid effort. Like, ran third at Churchill in debut in a big time maiden special weight, and was a step slow, was out wide, kind of tired, but then has come back and fired off some really nice works, and particularly that last October 16th bullet work, minute and 3, which was the top bullet work at Churchill, or top 5 furlong work at Churchill Downs that day. This horse should be ready to roll and ready to go, and has, again, good early speed, and going to be starting a little further outside, which is more advantageous in these sorts of 2-year-old maiden races. So should get a good trip. So this was the other one that I was looking at. If I don't quite have enough money to spend on the number 1 horse, then the number 7 horse was a nice little backup, I thought, as well, and should give a good accounting for himself.
Seas of Normandy. Wanted to give a shout out to our friend Jake with Thrilling Picks out there. Thanks for hanging out, Jake, with us, and Keith, Each Every Stride, who also was checking in out there too, sending some positive words on social media. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you ever want to share any plays, you can post some of your comments. If you're ever watching on YouTube and you post comments, they'll directly get shared to us, or you can post on social media. Before we move to Saturday, I did want to just throw one more out there at everybody. In race number 9, it's because it's a really big price, and I actually really like this horse quite a bit. The number 7 Ice Orchid is 20-1 on the morning line. And if you look at this filly, she's raced 5 times in her career. She's never missed a check. She's never missed a board in all 5. The first 4 starts of her career were earlier in the year. Then on February the 26th, she runs into Secret Oath, when Secret Oath was in awesome form. And following that race in February, she goes to the bench all the way from February to September. She shows back up on September the 18th at Churchill Downs. She finishes 3rd behind Dorothea that day. She was only 5-2, Ice Orchid. She got bet, and she had a brutal trip. A lot of times I'll do my notes like a few days ago, and when I'm revisiting them like last night or this morning, I was like, wow, I really like this horse, and I went back and watched again. Like my notes were just like jumping off the page for her. She had a couple stutter steps at the start. She was back to last. So all of a sudden now she's back to last in her first start in 6 months. And in her other starts, she wasn't that slow. She doesn't need to be so far back.
Right.
She was behind a wall of horses too. It was a brutal trip. She finds some room late in between horses, and she kind of closes well in between and gets up for 3rd. Now it's her 2nd start back off the 7-month break. And I think because her speed figure was so low, people may not play her in coming off of that race. Man, if she can get right back to some of those earlier races and just improve a little bit off of those, I think she fits at 20-1. She will not cost you very much to use in your stable dual lineup. Throw her into a pick 4 or pick 5 too if you're playing any Exactus Tri Supers. Like, she's just a big price who, if you can catch her somewhere underneath or in the mix anywhere, she'll help you. Ice Orchid. Let's get a couple Santana horses home late on the card. Today. Maddie and me will be screaming if that's the case as we make the transition from Friday on over to Saturday. Saturday, some big games at Laurel, big races at Laurel.
Yeah.
Right? It's Maryland Millions Day. And I know you have a couple that you wanted to mention for everyone out there. So I'm going to pull up Laurel. You can go through a few. What are our options for Laurel contest at Stable Duel on Saturday?
Yeah, so there's only one Stable Duel contest at Laurel for Saturday, but it's a nice $20, $1,000 pot game for Maryland Millions game. So that kind of perfect.
Everybody can get in there.
$20, everybody can get in. Exactly. It's very democratic in that regard. Everybody can get in. Not too price prohibitive. 12 race card. This is I always love this card because it's situated in just the perfect time of year. You and I were talking before we went live. There's a little bit of a lull in the calendar, because the best horses are gearing up for the Breeders' Cup. Everybody's, hubbubbing and having thoughts about Life is Good's workout this morning. Was it as good as it should have been? Is it as, does he look as crisp as he should look? He's a horse. He's going to run. It's fine. And so he didn't forget how to break all of a sudden.
No,
so he'll run. As long as Irad's not strangling him to a 24-48 opening quarter and a half, he'll be fine. Although shout out to our boy Law Professor who ran a hell of a race.
He did, man. God, he tries for us. He tries.
He does.
He knows it down, that
God,
professor.
I love Law Professor. Anyway, but no, Maryland Millions Day is great because there's that lull in the calendar, and this is an opportunity for the Mid-Atlantic to show off their best horses and to show off particularly the juveniles. I mean, this is there's always a lot of, I think, exciting juveniles. There's a lot of really good barns from Michael Trombetta to Brittany Russell to John Robb. You have a lot of great Mid-Atlantic trainers, and they can show off their best 2-year-olds and some of their best 3-year-olds and up. And it's a great day for Maryland. It's a great day for, Maryland breds. Obviously, one of the more famous ones recently, Nixco, is a Maryland bred.
Yeah.
So you have some great horses that come out of this area. And like I said, it's a 12 race card. And from 1 to 12, these are massive fields. If you are a bettor, you want to be playing Laurel on Saturday. Like, Stable Duel aside, every single one of these fields is like 12, 13, 14 horses. I mean, there's so much opportunity in these races. So very excited for that. So yeah, I'm in races 2, 6, and 9. I was going to give out a couple picks here.
So the second,
started.
and these are like all stakes races basically throughout the card. Just an awesome day. And you'll kick things off in race number 2.
Yeah, and this is kind of a starter handicap that's a $20,000 or $40,000, should say, starter handicap. Of course, my DRF is frozen up. So, but luckily for me, the horse that I like is Gino. Can you scroll down a little bit on the?
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. That's right, the 7 horse. So I'm going to talk about 2 horses here. Barry and I both like the number 1 horse, Commanding General, to win. But that horse is 9-2, not quite the no chalk zone, close, but not quite there. This is a horse that has just been keeping much, much better company than everybody else, we think. Yeah. And it's funny, Barry and I independently both ended up on these exact same horses. So,
nice, cool.
So we both like Commanding General. But for a value play, go down to the 7, which is Tauber. And there's a reason I love this horse. This horse is going turf to dirt, but this is a good dirt horse, and this is an underneath play. This is an 8-1 horse, only going to cost you $3,000. Do I expect this horse to win? No. Do I expect this horse to run above its odds? Absolutely. For a couple of reasons. One, the trainer is on fire right now at Laurel, winning 46% at this meet. 85% in the money at this meet. Yeah. So this is almost an automatic that this horse is going to hit the board. Also, this horse is almost automatic at hitting the board on dirt. So even though you've seen a lot of this turf form recently, this horse is 8 for 12 lifetime hitting the board on dirt. The trainer has good success transitioning from turf to dirt, 18%. Really like Tauber in this race. He's got a few of these dirt races to run back to that I really like. He's in good form recently. He's been attracting money. So this is a horse that clearly has shown talent on, granted on turf, but like I said, that has transitioned to dirt quite well. So the 7 Tauber in race 2 was a horse that both Barry and I were big fans of.
Couple different options for you for race number 2 for Saturday at Laurel on Maryland Millions Day. We move along to race number 6 for another horse to take a look at if you're playing the races on Saturday there. So we'll be going long on the turf here, Matty.
Yeah, going long on the turf. This is 1 1/8 miles, which is a little longer than most of these horses have gone before. But I ultimately ended up on the inside horse. My thoughts at 6-1. This is a horse that's that's only going to cost you $5,000 on the morning line. This is a horse that you talk about it. We both talk about it all the time. This horse's running lines make sense. First of all, you go back. This horse ultimately is now running on turf. I think that's appropriate. But this horse ran a hell of a race last year at the Maryland Millions last. Actually finished second to Buff My Boots.
38-1.
At a huge price. Beat Sparkle Sprinkle. Beat Luna Bell that day, actually, as well. One of my favorite fillies from the Mid-Atlantic. But, so ran really well. So has demonstrated against this caliber of competition can run well, no matter the surface. Then they kind of get maybe a little too excited. They run this horse against, in kind of stakes company at Laurel. As it gets older, just not the right move. Goes to the bench for a while, comes back, runs a turf sprint, I think, just to get one under her belt. Then they move long on the turf. And since they've done that, this horse has done first, second, first. This
That's
horse
home.
has been, yeah, exactly. That's what this horse is meant to do. Go long on the turf. And you're now, putting this horse in its best position to win. I like the fact this horse has been winning at 1 1/16 miles, now just stretching out that extra half furlong. Has some versatility, can sit close, but doesn't need to be on the lead. From that inside post, probably will get shuffled back a little bit, but that's okay. I actually don't want this horse to shoot to the lead because there's some speed to its outside. So I'd prefer if this horse sits mid-pack. But I think this horse is going to be ready to go, and Tim Woolley gets them ready coming off the bench. 38% winning percentage coming off the bench on this type of layoff, which is just a little bit of a freshening more than a full-on layoff. And so my thoughts at 6-1 for $5,000. That's where I'm going with my pick in the 6th race at Laurel on Saturday.
Yeah, horses. I think sometimes we get caught up in thinking that if you don't win a race, you're not a good horse.
Right.
Or just like everything is not linear. It takes a while to kind of figure out who you are, what your niche is, where you really fit, what level, what distance, what surface, all of those little things. And you could see it here with my thoughts in those first couple races where, okay, her first race was on the dirt. It was pretty good, but then they come back a couple other times and you know what? Yeah, she's not really a dirt horse as much. The turf race was good, but seems like she needed a little bit more ground. Let's go long on the turf. Boom.
Yeah,
a brand new animal. It's a little trial and error. Sometimes it's just, testing things out, figuring things out. My thoughts, 6-1 on the morning line, only cost you $5,000 in your stable dual lineup. One more for you on the Laurel card if you're playing on Saturday, and I believe you're looking at race number 9, right?
Yep, that's correct. Race 9, and this is another, even though he's not here, this is another sniper special that he and I independently both hit on.
Nice.
And that is the number 12 horse, Nick Papa Giorgio.
Oh, there we go. God, I love it.
Always a fun horse for us to talk about.
Hey, you see those 4 cars over there? They're mine. They're mine. They're mine. Oh man, I gotta watch this later. This is such a
Vegas
if you're a
vacation.
kid, especially for us, right? We're guys that are into gambling, into play. Like when you're young and you're watching that, and you see that young kid, and he's out there, and they take the picture of the fake ID right on the strip, right there for him, and he just goes and pulls, ding, 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 every time. It's just, oh man, that's awesome.
No,
for Russ, man.
That's a super underrated movie too.
It really is.
It's really
and
funny.
The name is fantastic too. It just sounds like a name that's a totally phony name for a guy that you would meet somewhere. Like, oh, it's a Nick Papa Giorgio. Hey, Sonny, Sonny's over here with Nick Papa Giorgio.
Exactly. I love it. And so Nick Papa Giorgio. This is a really good field. But Nick Papa Giorgio feels like he makes sense here. And part of it is because this is a horse that has been running well lately. And I just think part of it is I'm also looking for a horse that can beat Cannon's Roar, who is the 4-1 kind of second favorite in this race. I'm not a huge fan of the favorite. And so Cannon's Roar is kind of the second favorite. And if you go back through the running lines, Nick Papagiorgio has beaten Cannon's Roar a couple of times. It feels like I said, the last 4 times out, this horse has been running very solid. And Karamanos on the turf going long is kind of a cheat code in the Mid-Atlantic. I mean, we saw him absolutely clean up at Colonial. He's winning at a 29% clip at Laurel this meet so far. He's if not the best, one of the best turf riders in the Mid-Atlantic. So I absolutely love the fact that Karamanos stays on him for this race. And yeah, it's one of those where it just feels like it makes sense in a really wide open field. This horse just has some races to run back to. Will have some pace to run at because the 11 and the 4 are going to go out up front pretty fast. And this horse is going to have something to close into. It's been keeping, I think, slightly better company than maybe some of the other horses in this field. So at 6-1 for only $5,000, Nick Papagiorgio, I think, makes a lot of sense here in race 9.
And I love these streams now because this is going to be my head for a lot of the day, thinking about Vegas vacation. And I couldn't help but notice on August the 13th, we had Nick Papagiorgio against Nathan Detroit. I know you're a musical guy.
Yeah.
Myself, it's like worlds colliding right here. We've got the theater and the cinema coming together. Guys and Dolls, Luck Be a Lady with Nathan Detroit and then Nick Papagiorgio. It's like one of these metaverses. It's like, what's real? What's not? Where are we? I don't know. Nonetheless, we're having some fun with Nick Papagiorgio over at Laurel Park this weekend. So that's Saturday on a big day over at Laurel. Let's stay on Saturday and let's head over to Keeneland for Saturday. What are our Saturday Keeneland options, Matt, for Saturday games?
So right now on the website, there's just one posted, which is a $50 game with a $4,000 pot. And we'll see if that ends up being the only game. Sable Duel sometimes can add a second game.
And I spoke with John. I know they're going to add some Santa Anita games for Saturday and for Sunday. So if they're not up on the schedule yet, we will give out a play or two for Santa Anita following this, because I do think they will be posting games for tomorrow and for Sunday. But for Keeneland for Saturday, Matt is looking at races 1, 2, 3, and 9. So Matt, you're in the opener. Take it away, my friend.
So this opener was like made for me because first of all, the early pick 3 is 3 straight maiden claiming races. Fantastic.
Oh, my goodness.
Just open.
So it should go from that, and then to Barry, it would be 3 straight turf sprints. Right after that, right? It would be perfect. It's like your guys' pick 6 would be right there. There you go.
This is exactly.
Maiden claimers of turf sprints would be like everything.
I the world would
maiden
shut down if that
claimers at Gulfstream on the synthetic. It would be just like you guys.
I can't making so much money on that Tapeta. So that's. But yeah, so this first one is this is a $30,000 maiden claimer for 2-year-olds dirt, mile and a 16th. I ultimately ended up on the number 7 horse, Led Tasso. Very cute name.
Oh, great name.
This is a horse. This is, again, a Steve Asmussen, Tyler Gaffleone connection. We talked earlier about the ROI, $6.68. Could I interest you in that, Gino?
Yeah,
and
you could.
And so this is another one of their connections. And I like about this is the equipment change. This horse is getting the blinkers put on.
Yeah.
I think that's going to make all the difference in the world.
And if you're someone who's watching and you're not exactly sure, or if you see blinkers coming on sometimes, when the blinkers come on, it can do a couple of things. It can get a horse more speed. It can get a horse just a little bit more focus. And when you look at this particular horse, he looks like the type of horse who blinkers could do a whole heck of a lot for.
Exactly, because he just gives himself too much to do. Like he was 10, 13 lengths back the last time out. Like, and he ends up passing horses. I mean, that's the thing is if you look at that last effort, now granted it was at a maiden 30, but this is a maiden 20. He dropped out in class. He showed some ability last time out to at least pass horses late. And again, I think if you put the blinkers on this horse, it's going to be much, much better. This horse just needs to be better positioned early and needs to be a little bit more forwardly placed. He's a ghost zapper, so distance should not be an issue at all for this horse. And again, like going back to the connections of Asmussen and Gaffleone, going back to 21% win rate for Asmussen when he puts the blinkers on. That's pretty damn good. I mean, and it wins at a 23% clip at the maiden claiming level. So there's just a lot to like here for a horse that's only going to cost you $3,000, 8-1 on the morning line. Led Tasso, number 7 in race 1 for me at Keeneland on Saturday.
No release date yet for season 3, but it is coming. It is in the works. Ted Lasso, just be a goldfish out there.
By the way, let's talk about winning divorces. Jason Sudeikis is doing like a victory lap after the train wreck that is Don't Worry, Darling, and all of the
negative.
Oh my God, Olivia Wilde,
and that's one of those ones where it's like, gosh, I think you and I don't know what went down, right? We don't know what really happened.
Of course not.
But every time she talks, she sounds less likable. Like everything that she says, she comes off less and less likable, which, gosh, a few years ago, I remember thinking like, wow, she's so good, pretty, talented, like awesome. And now your whole perception of someone changes. Really, it's crazy. You're absolutely right. And I don't know if it's something about the Ted Lasso, but he's like such a likable dude now.
Exactly. That's the thing.
You almost wonder if it's somewhat built in a little bit to this character too, because it's like, what did the guy do? You're looking at him, you're like, hey, it's Ted. It's Sudeikis. Right. Oh, he's such a great guy. Like exactly. he's definitely won the public perception there on that one. Yeah. And that's a bummer. That's a bummer. That's a real bummer. Because Harry Styles,
there's so much drama there, and Chris Pine, and it's a lot of nonsense Hollywood drama. But when you have these breakups, it is kind of funny to see. A lot of times there's a trajectory, and it doesn't matter if it's the man or the woman, but they go in divergent paths sometimes.
One gets to it's very wrestling, right? One gets to be the baby face, and one has a heel turn. Yep. And you'll see the one that has the heel turn will sort of be like they're in their midlife crisis, and they'll go out and they'll like get a motorcycle, or
start dating a model 45 years younger than them,
20 years
whatever.
Younger, absolutely wearing the most outlandish things. They get a boob job, one of those things. It's something along those lines.
Yes.
So, that's great. We also have our Saturday morning gossip column. If you guys want to check out me and Matt, we'll be here tomorrow, Saturday morning, going through all of the gossip in
I gossip all day. I love it.
I know. I would just it's a spectator sport.
Exactly.
We like sports as we turn the page on Saturday at Keeneland to race number 2. And I'm looking in this one. Okay. And I believe you are also looking in this one. Right?
Yeah. Where are you?
Okay, we're both in here. I'm on the 8, Royal Dame.
Okay, we're on 2 different horses, but I like it.
So Royal Dame debuted at Churchill on September the 28th. She drew the rail that day. She got a little bit of action. She was only 6-1 in that race. And she just had that tough trip from the rail. She got pushed back a little bit from the inside. She moved up nicely. She was about 4 lengths off. She was up into 5th, and she just didn't have anywhere to go. And some of the horses in front of her that were tiring backed up into her. She sort of got gapped, which is a harness racing term.
Yeah.
And it's like when you move up and then you get shuffled back, it takes a little while to get going again, to kind of get back into contention, and you'll see like a gap between you and the field. And then she kind of closed the gap and got back into contention. I think it was just a tough spot for your first time out, drawn down towards the rail. She's kind of in between there, and she did come on again late. She ends up just missing 3rd there after the top 2 had separated, and I think she has the right to improve. She really doesn't have to improve all that much to be really competitive with this group, and now she's drawn to the outside. She gets a little bit more distance. She feels like a horse who would have been a little bit better going 7 furlongs anyway, and now she has this fitness builder under her. I like Royal Dame, the number 8. In race number 2, 10-1 on the morning line will only cost you $1,000 in your stable dual lineup. Who are you looking at in here, Matty?
Yeah, so this one I'm looking at a Brad Cox horse. I'm looking at number 2, Queen Anne's Revenge. This is the horse that is 6-1 on the morning line, going to cost you that average $5,000 cost for a horse in Stable Duel. And this is the horse that I kind of mentioned earlier that is going from turf to dirt and related to Brad Cox. This is a move that Cox is very successful at doing. I mean, going turf to dirt, winning at a 31% clip. I mean, quite frankly, you don't see those numbers
No.
anywhere. And this is for a big barn. I mean, this is not for a barn that sent, 3 people out and one of them won or something like that. This is a barn that does this sort of surface switch regularly. In fact, 103 times over the last year. So this is a barn that's doing this a lot and has a lot of success doing it. We actually just saw it recently, didn't win, but a horse like Chop Chop went from running on the turf and then going and running a huge second place integrated stakes company on the dirt. So Queen Anne's Revenge trying to do kind of something similar here. And this is a horse that I thought also ran really well in last time out, actually. Was super wide, went 7 wide, actually, finished 4th out of 9. But if you look, Sabalenka, the horse that won that maiden, comes back and runs 4th in the Grade 2 Jessamine next time out, and was a really nice play that day at a pretty big price. And so Sabalenka was a real nice horse. And so, the fact that this horse has come out of that race, I think says a lot. And then the rest of it is just trusting in Brad Cox, quite frankly. I mean, the drop from maiden special weight to maiden claimer, he's winning 36% of the time. Maiden second starts 30% of the time. Like I said, turf to dirt 31% of the time. Route to sprint 25% of the time. That's the other thing. This horse is cutting back a furlong to 7 furlongs now. So there's just so many factors here that makes me think this horse is going to fire in this race, and the Cox barn is going to get this horse ready. So Queen Anne's Revenge, like I said, I think will probably get bet down a lot more than 6-1. We'll take on a lot of money, I would imagine. But at Stable Duel, where it's all fixed and stable in the prices, $5,000. Sign me up for this horse on Saturday.
Shout out to Staten Flurry over there from Flurry Racing Stables. They own She Dares the Devil. They also own a filly named Lady Flurry, who was a monster debut winner out at Louisiana Downs. And that's how I sort of gotten on the day that she was running in the Louisiana Cup. She Dares the Devil was also running in the Clement Hirsch at Del Mar on the same day. It was like a massive day for their barn. So I interviewed Staten Flurry a few days before that to talk all about how he got involved, and shout out there, really, really sharp guy. And it was the first time I talked to him. So his name is Staten, and I called him Staten right off the bat, like an idiot. I'm like, God. And like, I looked at some of the interviews after, and I'm like, I see everybody else is calling him Staten. And I was like, I don't do those kind of things. And I was I'll never forget it. You know what I mean? Like, that'll stick with me forever. I'll never forget that. I'm so meticulous to just about not wanting to make little mistakes like that. And as soon as I was like, I'm just horrified by that. Like, just so at least I'm going to try to Eminem it. If I feel like if I make fun of myself and just throw it out there, like nobody else can punch me back. Cause I'm just, I'm punching. I like the Eminem defense, the 8 mile
right. If you make fun of yourself first,
you just throw your weaknesses out there and you take it away from someone else. Like, what are you going to come at me with? Right.
Listen, as a very nerdy kid with a big nose and a giant head, when I was like 6 years old and to the point I was 16 years old, you learn how to get things off of you. Like you learn how to you learn self-deprecating humor. You learn how to like have a sense of humor. Whereas like if you're popular, you don't really have to have a sense of humor. People just think you're cool.
Ugly duckling syndrome, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
syndrome.
You learn to, you learn how to get it off you and move it on to somebody else. And if I make fun of my own big nose first, then nobody's going to make fun of it later. So that's, you learn to do these things.
I would be sitting in, just for any trolls out there, I would get more, because now with what I do, I don't get as much negative, because most of the people, like if you're watching some of my content, you clicked on it, like, the content I'm on. Before, when I worked like at TVG, you're working for a network. So if somebody turns the network on and you're on there, they don't know who's going to be on. So that's the type of situation where if somebody just doesn't like you, or, you might get more negative, you might get more negative. And so I would get, I'd have people that'll be like, hey man, you and your big eyebrows. And I would be like, hey, look, let me just tell you something. Look, you're going to have to come at me with something a little bit better than that. Like if you really want to, if you really want to get it there, because I'm telling you, if you think you're the first person that's told me I have big eyebrows, like I can let you know you're not.
Yeah.
I can let Unibrow, Bert and Ernie, Anthony Davis. Like I've heard them all. So like, be funnier. Come with something creative if you wanna get me. Otherwise, you're not gonna rock me. You're not gonna rock me at all. You're not. It's like come at me with more than the eyebrow thing. As we you have one more early on in the card, right?
I got
Another
race
one?
3. Yeah,
Race
I got
three, right in the row. We're gonna go
finish up the maiden
old
claimer
school,
early 3.
pick 3 for Maddie.
Yeah. And so in this one, it is a $75,000 maiden claimer, 6 furlongs on the dirt. And I went to the number 7, Stand for Freedom. This is a horse that is only going to cost you $3,000, 8-1 on the morning line. And Gino, you talked about Vivar earlier, a horse getting back to what he does best. Stand for Freedom, also a horse getting back to what he does best.
Yep.
This horse ran decent on debut.
Yeah.
An $120,000 maiden special weight, then comes back
Remember
a
that
month later.
Actuator horse who won the Indiana Derby, who got who's in really nice form. Yeah.
Comes back, runs against Seals Beach, who's a nice horse as well, and finishes 4th there. But you see a buyer's increase. You see a nice little buyer's bump. It goes up 10 points from first to second start.
Yep.
You like to see that. Then they go long on a muddy sealed track, and it's just off conditions, and you just draw a line through it. Then they move him to a turf sprint, draw a line through that. Now they get him finally back going short on the dirt, which is what this horse wants to do. The weather in Keeneland is going to be beautiful this weekend. It's going to be dry, fast conditions. And so why can't this horse go back to running a 74, 75, or 80 buyer's speed figure?
And what's nice is a horse like this too, he shouldn't even need to drop in class. And it's not like a big drop, right? It's like a maiden 75,000. But because his last 2 races are kind of muddied up, they can afford to do that and just give him a little bit of class relief. He probably doesn't even need it based on that July 3rd race at Churchill Downs. That race fits well at the maiden special weight level at any track. At any track.
Absolutely. And so now this horse actually getting blinkers on, which we talked about earlier with the one Asmussen horse, should help this horse as well, because he does seem to, he needs to kind of get going early a little bit. That's going to help him to be a little bit more forwardly placed. He does show the ability to pass horses quite effectively, but if you're a little bit closer to that speed, even if you're sitting mid-pack, you're going to be in a better spot. So, I think this horse, again, the blinks on, getting back to a good surface, right distance. This just makes a lot of sense in my opinion. At 8-1, I don't know. This horse just feels very, very, very natural in this spot. I mean, it feels like this horse really fits. Like you said, probably wouldn't have even needed to drop down. Could easily run at a maiden special weight at a lot of tracks, even including Keeneland, and is now getting pretty significant class release. But like you said, the form's muddied up the last 2 times, so it's going to look a little different. But this horse runs back to what he did in July. This horse wins. I mean, I like this horse a lot. So the Stand for Freedom, the number 7 horse in the 3rd race for me, only going to cost you $3,000 on Stable Duel.
Matt has one more on Saturday at Keeneland in the 9th. I will also get to the 9th, but before that, let's stop in the 6th race, as I have one to mention there in the Perryville.
This is a nice field. This is a really good
and
race.
it's kind of interesting because these stakes races were at one point on the Breeders' Cup undercard. Some of these stakes races at Keeneland, like a few years ago when it was run at Keeneland, but because of the timing, some of these races are a little bit earlier based on, the Breeders' Cup in 2 weeks from now. So the Perryville is a $250,000 sprint stakes. And I will say, for a 7 furlong sprint stakes on the dirt like this, just going through the field, I didn't think there was that much early speed. Like
not crazy early speed.
There's a lot of pressers.
Yes.
There's a lot of horses who are like Gunite, right? Gunite's the 6-5 favorite, but he's not really a horse who wants to be on the lead. He's very content with
he wants to sit. Yeah.
Just off the pace with the target there. And you start going through the whole field. They're kind of, most of them are like that. The real key to the race is Pinehurst, because the horse I like is Provocateur.
Oh, thanks a lot.
I think Provocateur might be the quickest in here. He's
Yeah.
drawn down towards the rail, and Luis Saez jumps aboard. In his last start, they tried to sit a little bit, and I like when a horse that has some speed has a race on their page where they try to come from off the pace and it doesn't work, because usually the next race they overcompensate and they want to make sure, hey, let's just get out of the gate. Let's get out in front. Maybe let's go even a little bit faster if we have to, just to make sure we're out front. I think this horse can get to the front in here from down on the inside. If he breaks well, he crosses over, he gets in front of Hoist the Gold, and then it becomes him and Pinehurst.
Yep.
And
Pinehurst is going to fade.
And Pinehurst is also like, he ran really fast last time out at Saratoga, but keep in mind, he's also been a little bit more of like a presser too. Like, he's okay sitting just off if he has to. To me, it really comes down to these two horses. And I think Provocateur at 15-1 in your stable duel lineup will only cost you 500, should give you a good run for your money, at least being involved early. And I think they have a chance in here. Now it's a My Racehorse, so they may get bet, but in stable duel, that doesn't hurt you a whole lot, right?
Provocateur, I mean, has been to keep an excellent company. I mean, that Woody Stevens against Jack Christopher and Papa Cap. I mean, so this horse been running really, really well and against excellent company. And I agree. I mean, definitely has the speed, and I always love the way John Embrial, for some reason, calls Provocateur, and it's just like, I just love the way he calls that.
The way he enunciates whatever the syllable that he he stresses the most. It feels like it would be the opposite of how I would say it, but I like his way better.
I know I like his way better too.
I wish I would have thought of that one.
Yeah, that's a nice play. I like this.
We continue on to the 9th race, and we both have one in the 9th race. Maddie, let's see where we land. Who are you looking at in the Lexus Raven Run?
So this is another, I think, a really nice race. I ended up on, there were two horses that came to mind, but I'll give out the one and see if we landed on the same one. So my probably top one was the number 6, actually, which is Colorful Mischief. Makes a lot of sense. I also like the 9. As well. So, but the 6 is the one I'll talk about. And this is a Todd Pletcher horse. And this horse just hasn't done anything wrong. That's the thing is you go back and look at this horse's efforts, runs a solid third on a sloppy sealed track in debut, comes back, wins, runs against Older, by the way, breaks its maiden against Older in a $121,000 maiden special weight at Churchill. Beats a horse like Gunning that comes back and finishes third in a stakes race, wins next out and then goes and finishes third in a stakes race. Then goes a mile and a 16th, probably a little too long for this horse, but still puts in an honest effort, finishes a close third, then goes back, wins a big time allowance race against Older, then goes and finishes third to Echo Zulu and Tarabi, who would be, I don't know, like 1-5 in this field. So, and Echo Zulu and Tarabi are just they're both of them are excellent fillies. And so the fact that, finished third there, the speed figures are not that far off what this horse needs to do.
It's funny. All of the stuff that you're saying is a lot and just because it's almost the same for my horse, Last Leaf.
Okay, yes.
Who came out of that exact same horse.
Yep.
They were right behind
same race.
Like a lot of the stuff that you're saying, I'm like, is he talking about my horse? Because
and what's funny is Last Leaf actually beat Gunning, who's the horse that also Colorful Mischief beat, who I was mentioning earlier. Gunning came back and finished third in that Autumn Stakes that Last Leaf ended up winning. So you like Last Leaf at, I believe, 12-1 on the morning line. I think they're the same price.
Same exact price.
And
you just use Echo Zulu as the measuring stick, right? And you use her and you say, what price would she be in this field? And then for Last Leaf, look at her. The only races that you look at for Last Leaf where you go, she really didn't fire, were against Echo Zulu and against Spenderella.
Yeah.
And then other than that, she runs well in all of her other races. And she has a race here against the boys where she finishes 5th. Okay, she faced the boys in that race at Gulfstream Park. All of her other races here against fillies, win. And then the trip. I like the trip that our horses could sit. Yours could sit just off the pace. Mine will be probably a little bit farther back, but there should be a good amount of speed in here, right? I mean, you start with Smash Ticket. I actually like Union Lake. I mentioned her when we talked about the Prioress last time out. She's a nice filly, but she's drawn the rail, and that will kind of put her in a tough spot because she's going to have to go from down there. She can't try to sit. And so her and Smash Ticket, they're both going to be sending. Right off the bat, you have those two that are on the lead. Fingal's Cave is going to be on the front end. Even cutting back, they're going to want to be right there. Now you have, combinations of at least 3 that are going to be on the front end. And because those 2 are down inside, I think they're going to be moving in here.
I agree. And so it's one of the other reasons. The other horse I liked in this race is the 9, Midnight Stroll. And this is a horse that will be sitting further back and will be making kind of one big run. And the reason I like this horse, just look at the company, Society, last time out at Charlestown Oaks.
Yeah.
Society then goes out and does what? Just blitzes the field and wins the Grade 1 Cotillion next time out. And is now I don't know, 3rd or 4th choice in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. It's kind of the hot horse right now that everybody's talking about. And then if you look 2 back, this horse beat Morning Matcha. What does Morning Matcha do? Morning Matcha comes and runs 2nd at the Grade 1 Cotillion next time out as well, and actually wins a race after that one as well. So, that horse has been keeping very good company as well. I think 7 furlongs is the right trip for this horse. It's funny because 7 furlongs at Charlestown is a 2-turn race. Now we're at a 1-turn race. And so I just think Midnight Stroll, you talk about the trip that the horses could get. I think this horse could get a nice trip sitting from the back. And again, it's only going to cost you $1,000 on the Stable Duel. So these are 3, I think, very logical, inexpensive plays you could make in this 9th race. And again, if you're listening, this just tells you, do not spend up in this race.
Yeah, this is a race that we
use some horses underneath.
We see some vulnerable favorites. Last Leaf is the one that I mentioned that should be coming from off the pace. Just should get that great trip in here. So a couple options in the 9th. Before we move along, I just want to give out a couple at Santa Anita before we get out of here. But I will throw in one more for you in the finale at Keeneland.
Bailout.
Got to give one out for Bailout Barry. The 11 in here, Shogun Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, statement that we've made a few times. You can go through every one of this horse's races, and they all make sense.
Yep.
He debuted going long on the turf at Ellis. He finished 4th behind a Next Out winner, comes back in his 2nd start, and it was off the bench. He hadn't run from September to May, so he needs the race. He finishes 4th that day. In his 3rd start, he actually wins. He crosses the wire first. He breaks his maiden at Indiana Grand, but he gets DQ'd. And then following that, his next race is over at Ellis Park. It's in the slop. It's taken off the turf. So he finishes 4th. He comes back at Ellis, and he's beaten just ahead. So in his 2 races on the turf, he won, and then was beaten ahead in his next start with trouble.
Yeah.
Following that, he went 1.5 miles on the turf. Let's just say 1.5 miles is too far for him.
Yeah.
Now he cuts back. I mean, it's really tough to knock any of his recent form. Is this going to be a tougher group than the groups that he's faced? Yeah, probably. But he's really consistent. He's in nice form. He's going to be a little fitter. And he's right next to IHOP. You know what I mean? The International House of Pancakes. Give me those chocolate chip pancakes. I put a little whipped cream on them. Funny face.
I love it.
Thank you very much, Shogun Warrior.
And I like Farron Peterson, the jockey. I like Farron a lot.
I agree.
And so she gives good rides, and she's, for people who don't know anything about her, she's actually she went to vet school. She has a whole veterinary degree. She's a really, really smart person, and so and a really a great horse person, and somebody who's kind of was in the Mid-Atlantic and then made a choice to kind of jump into the deep end in Keeneland, and has had some success in that Midwest Kentucky circuit. So like her a lot.
Matt and myself, we can look at the races and be very unbiased and give we can like a particular horse and have thoughts on that horse, whether or not we like them. But Matt and I will always be homers. Matt wants to talk about Maryland and Laurel, and I'm always going to want to talk about Santa Anita and Southern California. So we will stay true to our roots, even though I wouldn't say any one of us have crazy biases. We do love where we've come from. We do love We do. And for me, I always want to mention a couple at Santa Anita. Now, there aren't any Santa Anita games posted right now on the schedule, but I did talk to John, and he said they will post a game for Saturday and for Sunday. So I figured let's give you a couple for Saturday at Santa Anita in the opener. I'm looking at the number 6 Trebbiano. If you just dive into Trebbiano's turf races, they're all really good. He has 3 turf sprints. He finished second, and fourth in those 3 races. Last time out, he was second, and it was his first start since December. I think it's just pretty simple. He was sitting second. He angled out. He was sitting third kind of on the inside. He angled out. He took a shot at the leader, but the horse that won basically went wire to wire that day. And now he's going to come back and make his second start back. He's 5-1. I think he probably should be like 7-2 or 3-1 in here. And so you might be able to get a little bit of value right off the bat in Stable Duel with Trebbiano, the number 6. Should be forwardly placed in here. There's not very much speed for a turf sprint. I think he's either on the lead or sitting second or third in here. Trebbiano, the number 6 in race number 1 at Santa Anita on Saturday. Let's give you another 1 or 2 real quick. There's Trebbiano.
And now remind people, Gino, is next weekend, closing weekend at Santa Anita?
Santa Anita is actually closing on the Breeders' Cup weekend.
Okay,
so
on the
this
Breeders' Cup
weekend,
weekend.
yeah.
Okay.
So they extended this weekend, so that way they can get that extra Breeders' Cup weekend also. And that, you know, what will be nice? I didn't even think about that. That will put them in line to have a mandatory payout the day after the Breeders' Cup. If Sunday,
that's a nice way to get some action.
Yeah, if Sunday is the finale of the meet, that would put them in line for a Rainbow Pick 6 and all the mandatory payouts in the exotics that day. So that would be a blast. We move to race number 3. And I will say this weekend, if you're looking at Santa Anita in Southern California, all of the turf races are really good. I know that's usually that's generally the case in a lot of places where you go, but a lot of the turf sprints are very good, very contentious. You could find some prices in here. I like the 2 Natalia in here. Shout out to Natty Neihart. I'm a Bret Hart fan, and Natalia is the niece of Bret the Hitman Hart. So I hear the Bret Hart theme music every time Natalia comes out, and I always get excited for a second. Couple of reasons why I like Natty in this spot. Let's take a look at Natalia and the turf pedigree, because keep in mind she will be making her first start on the turf. Her dam, Papa Sid's girl. Now, you look at the record overall, she was just 1 for 18, but when you dive into a little bit more, she was in the money in 10 of those 18 starts. So while she wasn't a win machine, she certainly was capable on the grass, and she seemed like she liked the grass. So that's the dam. Now we dive into the siblings. There are a couple that kind of jump off the page to you with some of their turf success. Acadian, who is a nice horse. Acadian was a multiple winner going long on the turf, and a horse who tried Graded Stakes Company, but those Graded Stakes were just a tad above. It's a little bit too much for him. Like in the Arcadia, he was 4th. In the Kilroe, the Grade 1, he was 6th, but he was only beaten 2 lengths. In this race back here in the Del Mar Derby, he's 5th, but he's only beaten a length. He was more like a nice allowance horse, not quite a stakes horse, but he was good on the grass, and he was a multiple winner on the turf. There's also another winner on the turf here in Miyaka Prince. So we have a dam who won on the turf, has some turf success. We have multiple winning siblings on the turf. And we have a barn, Carla Gaines, who is so much better second time out than first time out. And it may not sound all that much. With first time starters, Carla Gaines is 3 for her last 89. So 3 for 90. Right. With second time starters, 9 for the last 77, which is almost 3 times the percentage.
Yes, more than 3 times. Yeah.
If you want to break that down even more, 4 for the last 6. She's won with 4 of her last 6 horses that are making their second start. This conditioner and this barn always just gives a horse a run first time out, and then they start to figure a horse out. Then they start to find out who they are, what they want to do. I'm expecting a massive step forward for Natalia. And oh yeah, she drops in class too. You know, she debuted against maiden special weights, and now she moves in with maiden claimers. She gets to the turf, which she wanted, and she goes out for a barn who's way better second time out. Natalia is 12-1 on the morning line. She's only going to cost you 750 in your stable dual lineup. She might be a really nice pick 4, pick 5 horse to use too early on in the exotics. Natalia there for Carla Gaines. Matt, she's someone that in just knowing Southern California now, for anyone out there who's watching, if you ever see a horse like this, like with Carla Gaines, that doesn't run well first time out, don't be hard on them.
Yeah.
Because she just, it's like an extra work for her.
Yeah.
You know, that's how she looks at it. And they say that a race like that is about 4 or 5 works worth of fitness in one race.
Exactly.
So, I think this one can take a big step forward.
Like
Natalia. One more to close out the card.
And Gino, just to interrupt, Stable Duel just loaded up their app, and they did have the Saturday games loaded in for Santa Anita. So I just want to let folks know there is a $3 game with a $500 pot, limit of 4 entries. So low dollar contest if you want to get in there. And then there's also a $30 game with a limit of 3 entries for a $1,200 pot. And I should mention they did add a second game at Keeneland on Saturday. We mentioned the $40 game with a $4,000 pot. They also entered created a $5 game with a limit of 2 entries with a $500 pot. So some contests for any price range on Saturday.
Let's finish things up with the bailout for Bailout Barry. I'm going to move to race number 9. And the reason why I talk about this race is because there's a heavy favorite in here. Now, remember, on a 9 race card, at some point, you're going to have to double up. So in one of these races on Saturday at Santa Anita, when you're playing your stable dual lineups, you'll have to use 2 horses, at least in one of them. And I think in the 9th race, a lot of people will go to Luca Grassi. Sure. This is a horse who's going to be a heavy favorite.
Swimming with the fishes. No.
Right? Yeah. Right. Great name. Great name. Luca was a 3rd place finisher against open maiden special weights, and now is in with Calbreds. Yeah. So shifts in, hands down, will take a ton of money. But the thing about Luca is what we've seen from him in his 2 races, he doesn't have very much early speed.
Yeah.
Right. He's a deep closer. What we've seen from him sprinting and then when he stretched out and went long. You go through this field, there is nobody at all that's shown speed except for the 5. Please focus. Yep. And his races on paper don't look all that great, right? He doesn't have much finish in there. Let's see what his pedigree looks like, though. Well, Dam won going long on the turf. Maybe this was a horse who maybe wanted to go longer and go on the grass. Won at 1 1/8 on the turf here. Now, let's take a look at the siblings. Maybe there's some turf success with the siblings. Oh, King Eddie is a 5-time winner on the grass. That's a positive. How about Eleuthera? Remember this filly that I liked? I gave her out before.
I do actually, yeah.
She's got some ability. She's a turf winner, and they threw her in some stakes races. Juggles is a turf winner.
Yep.
That Corey is a turf winner, won by 6 last time out. And what's funny, when you look, it says 0 for 2 on the turf because the 3rd race didn't get put in to the past performances like on the turf over here. So this horse actually won their last race on the turf by 6. So now you look at Please Focus in this particular race. The Dam won going long on the turf. All 4 siblings won on the turf. He's going to go 2 sprints to a route. He stretches out. He's actually shown sprint speed, and nobody else in here has shown any speed whatsoever. He's 12-1 on the morning line. He's going to give us a run for our money. I know where he'll be early. Yep. He's going to be out there winging it. And if you are going to beat Luca Grassi, it's probably this way, right? With the horse who gets out front, steals the race, and Luca Grassi's too far back and tries to come rolling. Please Focus. I'm going to do a pick 5 preview a little bit later on today on the Santa Anita feed. We've been doing some of these on Friday evening if you want to follow at Santa Anita or if you're following on the Santa Anita YouTube. And we're going to go over the Saturday pick 5 for Santa Anita. And I think a lot of folks will probably single in this last race with Luca Grassi. This would be an awesome horse to be closing in a pick 4 or a pick 5 on Saturday with, and just have this horse to give you a brief thrill. He'll give you a good little run for your money, you know, turning for home. This horse might be on the front end to close out a really nice exotic for you. So please focus to close out the card for me on Saturday over at Santa Anita, 12-1 on the morning line, just $750 in your stable dual lineups. Maddie, we always miss it when Barry is gone or when any one of our crew is out, but it's such a blast to catch up with you fellas every Friday morning. I always love it. And now I feel like I'm ready for the racing weekend.
I know.
And when I don't do our show, I'm not joking. It's the opposite. I feel like I haven't done my run through. You know, it's like I look back at everything and like now I know I'm ready to sit down, put my stable dual lineups in. I'm ready to like map out my tickets, any pick 4s or pick 5s I want. I go and I sit down, I put in my win wagers and stuff for the day. And it's a nice way of doing what a lot of people do with their friends all the time when they're talking about races. We just happen to be recording it and using the DRF past performances to go through it.
Absolutely. No, it's always a blast to do this. I mean, every week when I talk to you and Barry, inevitably 1, 2, 3 of the horses that you all recommend end up in my stables. I know it's the other way around as well.
Absolutely.
And it's just because a lot of them are horses you're going, there's something there. I don't know if I like it. And then you mention it. I go, yeah, okay. If Gino sees it as well, then all right, then there is something there, you know? And so I like that a lot.
That's what I love about just like sports media nowadays is and content. There's so many smart people, and I love hearing somebody that just comes at it from a different way than I do, a different approach. Like that's how you learn.
And what's funny is Barry and I did a Cap in the Card episode yesterday, which you can find on my Twitter feed at Failed to Menace, and we went through all 12 races at Laurel Park, and we gave a top value or a top pick and a value play in each race. What's funny is Barry and I ended up on the same horses in several races. We capped it independently. And yet when I asked him, why did you end up on this horse? I'm thinking he's going to tell me for the same reasons I ended up. Yeah, he gives me completely different reasons why he ends up on a horse. And I give him completely different reasons why I ended up on horses he liked. And so it was just, it was great. It was affirming to see, here's somebody who's approaching it this way. I'm approaching it that way. And we both ended up on the same choice. Makes you feel all the more confident in that choice.
Matt DeSantis, myself, Gino Bucola, Barry Spears will be here every week, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. We love hanging out with you. We love chatting with all of you out there. Big thanks to Jake for checking in. If you ever are out there and you want to share any of your selections for Friday and Saturday games, if you want to let us know what stable duel contest you'll be playing in, we would love to hear from you. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. I think last night they said was a sports equinox. There were all 4 of the major sports going on the same night last night.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You had hockey, you had baseball, you had basketball, and you had football all in the same night. And throw in college now with college football, and then throw in a great horse racing weekend like now. I mean, the options are endless for you sports fans out there. I hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you back next week. Keep in mind, 2 weeks on Breeders' Cup. We won't do a show that week. We'll have everybody focusing on Breeders' Cup, but we'll be back right after that again. Good luck this weekend. I hope everyone scores. Joey Cleveland, one of my best friends. I've known Joey since we were 14 years old, freshman at LaSalle High School, playing on the soccer team. Joey was the guy at school who would always get the guitar out, you know, and then some of the other guys are rolling their eyes like, oh no, this guy's getting the guitar out. And then a couple of the girls sit down over there and they're like, oh, that was Joey. Joey's the guy that always brings out. It's like, Joey, don't tell me how did you pull the guitar out of your pocket? How do you do that? It doesn't fit. You don't have your guitar everywhere you go, Joey Cleveland. It's not on your back, but Joey Cleveland will close us out right here with our Stable Duel theme song. Everyone have a great weekend.
Better. You want to spread your pony.